Hey Palm Springs, this is Scott, and I'm a librarian at the Palm Springs Public Library, and today I'm going to talk to you about 5 really great LGBTQ plus films set in high school. And we're going to move beyond Love, Simon. Great film, 2018, directed by Greg Berlanti, who was involved in Dawson's Creek back in the day and is currently producing inclusive shows like Riverdale and The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And if you haven't seen it, you should see it, but let's move beyond that. Also, what are my requirements for being on this list? Well, I'm going to take a page from GLAAD, and GLAAD has this test called the Vito Russo test. And it's their version of the Bechdel test, and the Bechdel test is about female representation in films. Well, the Vito Russo test is about LGBTQ plus representation in films. And it states there needs to be a character that's easily identifiable as LGBTQ plus. That character shouldn't be a stereotype, and they have to matter. In other words, they have to be a fleshed out character, and if you were to pull them out of the film wouldn't work anymore. So that means we're going to say goodbye to some high school films that could work, like Clueless or Easy A, but, don't quite pass that test. And there are some films that would pass that test, but I'm going to look for some more positive representations where the characters have hopes and dreams and maybe, just maybe, might attain them. So let's get started and go to our first film. Our first film is a 1999 film directed by Jamie Babbitt and written by Brian Wayne Peterson called But I'm a Cheerleader. Now you'll notice scrolling at the bottom of your screen are some people involved with the film, and some of the people have 2 stars next to their name. And I'm doing this to highlight members of our community. I think it's important to acknowledge when we are creating our own art and that art is informed by our own viewpoints. So the film stars Natasha Lyonne as Megan Bloomfield. Her love interest is played by Clea Duvall, and RuPaul plays a counselor. Megan's in conversion therapy. And Mink Stoll plays her mother. Mink Stoll shows up in all John Waters films, and tonally the director was referencing a lot of John Waters films, but she didn't want to quite do the same thing as John Waters was doing. And I think that was misunderstood by a lot of critics who didn't get that, but also just didn't understand what they were watching. And that's an important thing to recognize. There's a lot of stuff covered in this film, and it is a satire, and it deals with a lot of issues with humor. But these are a lot of really serious issues, like shock therapy, a character being kicked out of their home because she's a lesbian. These are things that happen. And it's done in a light way that deals with the issues, but it also shows, when she's kicked out of her home, there are other people there who are part of the community who are there to help her. So there's some good there too, and you know what, it has a happy ending. I think you're really going to enjoy it, and I highly recommend that film. Our next film is a 2012 movie directed by and written by Stephen Chbosky, and it's based on his 1999 novel, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. It stars Logan Lerman, Emma Watson, and Ezra Miller. The Perks of Being a Wallflower focuses on 3 main characters. Charlie, who's played by Logan Lerman, is clinically depressed. He's a freshman in high school and he has no friends. He's very shy, and his world is very small because of his clinical depression. And he meets 2 high school seniors, one played by Emma Watson named Sam, and her stepbrother Patrick, played by Ezra Miller. Patrick is gay. And through knowing these 2 high school seniors who take Charlie under their wing, his world starts to open up, and he stops being so depressed. He starts getting out into the world. Patrick has his own storyline. He is involved with the high school quarterback who doesn't want anyone to know that he's gay, and this leads to a confrontation that, involves violence. Okay? And Charlie steps in and is a good ally and helps to protect Patrick. Now, before you write me letters, you could also make the case that Patrick and Sam helped to save Charlie, okay? So, yeah, Charlie, does help Patrick, but it does go both ways here, right? So it's a well-made film, coming-of-age film for all involved. I think you'll enjoy it. Our next film is a 2016 film called Moonlight, written and directed by Barry Jenkins. It's based on a play by Terrell Alvin McRaney called In the Moonlight, Black Boys Look Blue. Moonlight won the Best Picture Oscar the year it was released. The film focuses on Chiron, who's growing up in Liberty City, a neighborhood in Miami. His mother, played by Naomi Harris, is a drug addict and is violent with him. When he's young, he meets Mahershala Ali's character, who's a drug dealer, and the girlfriend, who's played by Janelle Monáe. They more or less become like a mother-father figure towards him. When he enters high school, that's a brutal experience for him. He's gay, he gets beaten up a lot. He's afraid to go to school. But there's also an experience with another guy that he has that stays with him his entire life. And as an adult, now played by Trevante Rhodes, we see him remembering that experience. He's got PTSD, and it's hard for him to disconnect the violence of his youth with his sexuality. It's hard. But I think the ending of the film has some hope. And I don't want to give everything away, but it does involve a return to where he grew up. And through that return, maybe there's self-acceptance. The movie doesn't give us concrete answers, and some people have said the film is really sad. And it is. But I think the ending could also be hopeful. It could be about self-acceptance, and that's a powerful thing. The film is beautifully shot. It deserved to win Best Picture that year. Our next film is a 2004 comedy directed and co-written by Brian Danley and set in a fundamentalist Christian high school. It has a standout performance by Mandy Moore as a fundamentalist Christian. It's also produced by Michael Stipe of REM fame. Saved cracks me up. So we have Mary, played by Jenna Malone, who seems to have the perfect life. And one day she and her boyfriend go swimming, and they dive under the water to share a secret with each other. And her boyfriend's secret? He's gay. Huh? Well, in order to try to ungay him, which doesn't work, by the way, she sleeps with him. She winds up pregnant, he gets sent to conversion therapy. These are really serious issues, and the film deals with them with humor, but it deals with them. Now, the characters also run into a lot of judgmental characters as well, one of whom is Mandy Moore's character. She even throws a Bible at somebody. And it's really funny when she does it. But I'm given to understand you're not supposed to throw the Bible. I don't think things have changed that much. Okay. Seriously, though, it shows a lot of these judgmental people, but it doesn't judge them. It does have a sense of right and wrong. There's a clear sense of right and wrong in the film. But it doesn't judge anyone, and it allows all the characters to learn and grow, which is an important thing. And the film builds towards a crescendo that's actually beautiful. Highly recommend the film. Our next film is Booksmart, a 2019 comedy directed by Olivia Wilde and starring Caitlin Dever and Beanie Feldstein. Booksmart is a really well-written and hilarious film. It stars Beanie Feldstein as Molly and Caitlin Dever as Amy. And Amy is a lesbian. And her storyline and her romantic interests are actually prioritized in this film. So that's really, really cool. The basic conceit here is that Amy and Molly have been spending their 4 years of high school studying to get into really good schools. And they studied so much, they didn't do any fun things. They just stayed home and studied. All right? And right before graduation, they discover that their peers who've been partying hard also got into really good schools too. And so Amy and Molly decide to cram 4 years of wild debauchery and fun into one final night. I don't know if I could handle that. But anyway, it's really well done, it's really funny, and you'll never ever listen to Alanis Morissette's You Ought to Know the Same Way ever again. All right. So Palm Springs, because you're a little bit extra, let's put the plus in this too and give you one final film. And this film that I'm going to talk about here is actually the film that Booksmart is most indebted to. And that's the 1999 film Election, written and directed by Alexander Payne and starring Matthew Broderick, Reese Witherspoon, and Chris Klein. It's based on a novel by Tom Perrotta. We usually don't think of Election as an LGBTQ plus film or as a high school film because it's a political masterpiece. It's about Tracy Flick, played by Reese Witherspoon, and this character is really iconic. She's smart, she's a hard worker, she's had to overcome a lot, she cares. You know, she's had to work for everything in her life. And maybe someday she wants to be president of the United States. Some people don't find her so likable, though, and that could be a big problem for Tracy. I like Tracy, but I'm not in this film. I'm not. And then there's Paul Metzler, who is running against Tracy Flick. And Paul, he seems more likable. He's also had a lot given to him, and that might be part of why he's more likable, right? And you know what? He's probably not going to do very much as president, and he's also not terribly smart. And so the thing is, why is one person more likable than the other? And why do people feel that way? These are really important questions. And the thing is there someone getting involved in this election? And if that person's their high school teacher, played by Matthew Broderick, well, then that's a big problem, isn't it? Now, there's a third person running for election, and that person is Tammy. Tammy is Paul's younger sister, and she likes girls. At the beginning of the film, she's brokenhearted because the girl she was with dumped her for her brother. And so she runs for election, and she really just says it like it is. She says to people that really the only thing she's going to do as president is disband student government. Because you know what? Maybe it doesn't matter. And she might just, in this context, be telling the truth to the student body. And you know what? She could win. Tammy's also an agent of her own change. And what Tammy wants is to get out of this school, though. She wants to go to the girls' school, not so far away. And she might just find a way to do that. Tammy is the moral center of Election. And for a film that's about what's right and wrong, ethics and morals, that's a really awesome thing to be. And Tammy is really awesome. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this Palm Springs, and I do hope to see you at the library soon.